And let me just mention two of them. I won't even talk about things like what European country that was partially gobbled up by Hitler equals Grenada, and I won't go into a lot of other parallels. But Germany lost World War I. And for years afterwards, the talk was that the generals had been betrayed by the civilian population. The United States lost the Vietnam War, and we keep coming up with that thing that it was a no-win war. They did everything possible. They bombed Vietnam back into the Stone Age, which was what Curtis LeMay said that they should be doing. I mean, what they did to Vietnam, they did everything possible to win it. And the idea that somehow or other they lost it because it was a no-win war, that they had to fight with one arm behind their back, just is not true. But there's a parallel. The other thing which Hitler based his whole thing on was anti-communism. That is why when I was in Germany in 1937, the United States government was still supporting Hitler. It wasn't until the Nazi-Soviet pact which proved that the plan to turn Hitler eastward into the Soviet Union might not work, whereas the Soviet Union was trying to turn him westward in this direction, and they gained the upper hand of that. It wasn't until then that the tide turned in this country, and it became, again, because people are mixed up both sincerely and hypocritically anti-Nazi. And that's what I was trying to say about Oliver North, that he's hypocritical and sincere. But anyway, what was the thing they talked about? They attacked the Nazis rising up. The Bundestag, which was their Congress, the Bundestag, they accused it of being in league with and weak toward Jewish communism. And what came out of the Contra hearings over and over again? We were justified in doing all of these things because the Congress is weak and pusillanimous and making overtures to or not knowing how to resist communism. Yes?
Yeah, we all know about the one party.
Stand up from UVM.
We know about the one-party Congress and the coup that's been waged over the summer on the soap opera there, the hearings, everything going on. My question, Dave, and I didn't catch the other person. Martin, excuse me, is what hopes lie for us? What options are available to us in the way of organizing centrally, locally, or whatnot beyond the days of decision, which is the sequence of events coming up around Contra aid, to protest and lobby and whatever else. What are our options coming up, let's say this fall and this winter, around effecting change in Central America? For instance, in El Salvador, or the Contra War, which if this vote fails, the war will still definitely, continue. The money between, the Pentagon, the Defense Department, the Coors brothers and whatnot will keep this war going long after, Contra aid's voted down. But my question is then, how can we effectively create some change?
Well, as I, in a way, indicated indirectly, there is no single path. I think we have to begin here by changing our own lives, becoming more sensitive to the extent of violence in our society that is just taken for granted. I mean, the success drive, rise above your fellows rather than together with them. The lack of democracy in the country. To me, it is laughable. And I don't have the statistics with me now, which I sometimes do. But when money determines time and time again who is elected to the Senate or the Congress rather than principles or rather than programs, and even after people get there, they may have made a few rhetorical vows. I'm trying to think of a candidate who was elected, doesn't matter, some time ago, who said, well, that was campaign rhetoric after he acted differently. But I mean, we have to, who?
Wilkie.
Wendell Wilkie.
Campaign lobby.
Yeah, right. But anyway, I mean, to me, it has to then move outward. We have to not only change our spirits, but also become more, better educated about the nature of the system I mean, we are celebrating the Constitution. It has no economic bill of rights. We're the richest country in the world, and we have all those homeless people in every city you go to. We have, I mean, I mentioned racism in a certain sense, or, what happens to black people, and they fight back in some way that they can, destructive to themselves. I don't mean all blacks, but I mean certain people do. Destructive to them and destructive to other people, and it increases the racism in the country. We have to go so much deeper than we have. There are no magic plans which will end anything. Then at another level, because I'm going to jump right over rather than try to spell out too much, but at another level, you have to somehow put your mouth and your body and your life against the violence and affirm something different. And that may only mean saying something in the neighborhood bar or your church women's group or somewhere else when somebody speaks, as happened to me recently, about the niggers. Or whatever, or puts women down, or gay and lesbian people down, whatever it is. But then, to me, there's a whole progression. I think until the country also, and I hope in a more all-embracing spirit, somehow is able to create a situation of no business as usual in the country as long as the United States is acting as a terrorist government in countries all over the world, which it is. They couldn't hold a White House reception, but some Eartha Kitt would stand up and say something, or Robert Lowell, where they couldn't draft people any longer because of the anti-draft movement, where soldiers would no longer fight in many cases, or were fragging their own officers, a violent act that I obviously don't approve of. We have to both broaden and deepen our spirits and our application in personal lives, but also get to the point where they simply cannot fight these wars all over the globe and distract us, and where we do not put our faith in opportunistic politicians. And I don't care how good some of them are. Anybody who starts running for the White House, watch out for it. That relates to Joe Allen's question about Trojan. I just want to end with one thing. I got the signal, it's over. But I just want to, in a way, it's a slogan. But one of the problems in the movement, amongst people, is that we get so obsessed at a certain point when the extent of the violence and the hypocrisy and the lies and the failures comes home to us, that we become very narrow-minded about it. And we become, amongst other things, like fanatical. The next 6 weeks are going to determine the future of Western civilization. One of my cohorts in the anti-war movement, Rennie Davis, said that. A certain point. Or like Helen Caldecott, we've got 4 months to save the world. Great short run, but not good in terms of depth and long run. So what I end up by saying is, we've got to say no to violence, destruction, oppression, inequality, and war. Personally and politically. But also we have to, at the very same time, be saying yes to life and love and laughter. To all the positive affirmations of life, which will take many forms, and we don't want to ask anybody else to choose the same forms we do.